Welcome to the Childcare Genius podcast, proud to be the world's #1 community for brilliant childcare leaders. Each episode will feature interviews with the brightest minds in the childcare industry to guide you into becoming a smarter business leader. Our hosts have opened 10 schools while raising 5 children. They are certified business coaches and are the top-selling childcare business book authors of all time. This episode is sponsored by Elif Childcare Insurance. Give Blake a call at 972-232-2258 to get a free quote on childcare business insurance today. Let's welcome to the Childcare Genius podcast our hosts, Brian and Carol Duprey.
E52 of the Childcare Genius podcast.
We're your hosts, Brian and Carol Duprey.
And for a power-packed episode today, we're excited. And before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about a book we have available. It's Advanced Childcare Business Strategies. And we actually give this book away for free. This is our give back to the community. And it's about 130, 140 pages. I don't know, I have my glasses on, 150, something like that. And is all advanced childcare business strategies, secrets to profitability, expansion, and wealth creation. And we will ship this to you free anywhere in the United States. And we even pay for the shipping. But that's what we are, just generous people giving back to the community. And go to childcaregenius.com/books. And you can go ahead and order that book today with no strings attached. And who does that? There's other companies out there, they'll charge you $5, $6, $7, $8 for a book. They're trying to sneak a hidden profit in there. It only costs you $3.60 to ship a book. They charge you $5, $6 for shipping. I'll pay you the $3.65 because I want you to be helped with our book. Anyway, moving on. We have an amazing guest today. One of my favorite coaching clients from Canada. Actually, he's my only coaching client from Canada at the moment. Her name is Gillian, and she's a very successful pair of schools in Alberta, Canada. And Alberta's over near Montana, up north of Montana. And she discusses some of the challenges she faces in growing a childcare business in a very highly regulated country. Canada is very tough on businesses and very tough on childcare business. And she's done very well. And we're excited to be able to talk to her today.
Let's get Gillian on the line. Hi, Gillian. Welcome to the Childcare Genius podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just great. Thank you.
Hi, Gillian. Good to see you. Can't wait
Hi,
to
Brian.
interview you here today. We're so excited to have you. You're the first Canadian we have had on the Childcare Genius podcast. And we love Canada. We actually live 2 hours from Canada, so we're close. And we consider ourselves honorary Canadians. And
I consider myself an honorary American.
Ah, beautiful. We go back and forth. Reciprocal.
There we go.
So what part of Canada are you in?
I am from Alberta, so I live in a town called Sherwood Park, which is just east of Edmonton. So north of Montana.
So if you go to Montana and just drive north, how far would it you? When I leave the border, I got to drive how far and I get up to you?
Ooh, probably 9 hours.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty far.
Wow, you're a long way up there.
Yeah.
So is it snowing up there yet?
No, it's a beautiful day today. It's about 81 Fahrenheit here.
Oh, 81 Fahrenheit. No, but when you say it's only 27 Celsius, then it seems like it's cold, right?
To us,
you.
it does. When we say it's 81, you're like, it's really scary.
Yeah, it is really scary.
Well, you had any problems with wildfires out there in Alberta this year?
We had our fair share earlier. I think it was May, June, northern Alberta caught on fire. So we had lots of smoke, but it's been fairly clear for us for quite some time. So hopefully no more.
Well, the reason I wanted to have you on a podcast is it's different. You run under a different set of rules in Canada, and it's a little more difficult to be more profitable in Canada than my U.S. clients anyway. I've been coaching you for a while, and you do really well. And I love your attitude. You're a great business owner. I wanted to bring you on to inspire. We have a lot of Canadian listeners, our second biggest market, and a lot of them will be inspired by what you want to share today. So we can't wait to have you talk to them.
Well, thank Thank you.
Can you tell us about your schools and how you got into the childcare business?
Sure. So, like many people, we kind of stumbled upon this. When I graduated from university with my Bachelor of Education, our provincial government was trying to balance the budget. So they were laying off all first-year teachers. They were not hiring any or any new graduate teachers. So I was unemployed. And my mom, she ran the HR for a very large law firm. And that law firm merged with another law firm, making her position obsolete. So there we were, both unemployed at home. And my dad said, you two have got to get jobs because you got to get out there in the world. I was fine staying at home, but he was not okay with that. So my parents went grocery shopping one day and happened to meet the couple that owned the daycare my sister went to as a child. And they said, well, hey, Gillian's the education. And my mom's name is Etta. Etta, you are the business background. You're the perfect combination to own a childcare. So we started shopping for childcare centers and we found one. So in 1994, we bought an existing childcare center. That same year, we opened an out of school care and I opened a preschool program 3 mornings a week as well. So I taught the preschool program and then I was assistant director of the daycare. We had a director in place already, which was fortunate because my mom and I knew absolutely nothing about daycare, like nothing. So fortunately, we had a good director to kind of guide us. And then we just stayed with that one business for years and years. And my mom managed it. I was on the floor. She made me do everything. The toilet was plugged. I was cleaning it. If the floors needed to be stripped and waxed, because we had no money, right? You're new, you got no money. We stripped and waxed the floors on the long weekends. We painted. My dad and my husband were the maintenance crew. So we did all the hard labor for years. Time goes by and my mom kind of phases out a little bit and then she's already groomed me. So I know the business part. And about 5 years ago, we decided to build a brand new childcare center, kind of based on all the bits and pieces that I had seen throughout looking at centers online, visiting centers in different countries, that sort of thing. So we built a brand new building and here we are. We have 2 centers now.
Awesome. That's a great
Nice.
story. And it's cool that you started out with your mom. That's a neat story. I hadn't heard that before, so I love that.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Like I said, if there's a yucky job to be done, my mom made sure I did it so that when I had to ask somebody to do it, it's not like I hadn't done it myself.
You know, that is one thing, and that's some good advice for our listeners too. Something we've never done with our kids is treated them any different than any other employees. They worked the same jobs. They got paid the same amount of money. There was no preferential treatment. When they want a day off, they didn't ask us. They asked their director. And we never put our thumb on the scale. We treated them just like everybody else. And they did every job at the company. So when now they're leading it, they get the respect because they've earned it.
Exactly.
So note to, if you have your children in your business, don't treat them any different. And it'll help you down the road. Now, they'll want special treatment, mind you. Don't give it. Don't give it.
So like you said, I've done all of the dirty jobs. So I tell my employees, I will never ask you to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself.
Or have done 100 times.
Or have done. So if they say, I can't do that, I'm like, I've done it, so you can do it.
That's why I don't ask anybody to change diapers, because I sure haven't done it, and I nor am I going to do it at a childcare center. So that's why I don't ask them. But I'm glad you have done that, and you're good at sharing that. So I know, Gillian, it's much harder to make a profit in a childcare business in Canada. You have a different set of rules, and you're very restricted. But you've done really well, and you've overcome a lot of the hurdles that a lot of owners are facing in Canada. So can you tell us a little bit maybe about some of the struggles you're facing, and why you've been so successful at running a childcare center in Canada?
Sure. So we are a little bit different than lots of the states. I know each state down there is different. So in January 2022, the Canadian government unrolled a new program where their goal is to have $10 a day on average childcare. So it should cost you $10 a day for your child to be enrolled in any childcare center across the country. And it was going to be like kind of a 5-year process. So they told us January 2022, you must not raise your fees by more than 3%. Now, this is coming off COVID. So Lots of people hadn't raised their fees in years. Some people had reduced their fees, trying to get parents to come back because we're all struggling to, rebuild our schools and our enrollment. So there we are. We're already behind the 8 ball, and you get 3% increase. So we managed through that. We had to sign this contract with the government. So now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, everything has gone up so substantially. Buying your groceries, utilities, everything. How are we going to manage? So that was a pretty big eye opener for us. So what we really had to do was really start looking at everything. How much are things costing for us? How much more recyclable products can we use? Are we going to have to start charging for food fees? Are there other programs we can offer at additional cost? So you really had to think outside the box as to how are we going to manage this situation. So that's the big difference between us. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a lot of childcare owners in the States are raising their rate by 10% a year just to keep up. We have done that probably the last 3 or 4 years, going up close to 10% just to keep up with inflation and the pay increase of teachers. So it's all the more important to keep payroll costs in check, make sure your staffing is lined up, make sure you're not overspending. So I'm sure you're watching the bottom line a lot tighter now than you probably did years ago.
Way more than ever before. We always were able to pay the bills, have a profit on the end, give raises, buy nice things for the center. And now, if we want to continue doing that, we really have to watch what we're spending our money on and where it's going.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's a noble effort they're trying to do. $10 a day, it sounds like a noble effort until you see the law of unintended consequences. It's actually causing you to probably pay your teachers less investment in the school. There's less things because it's the unintended consequence. You don't have the money to put back into the teachers, to invest in their education and do things like that, because you're just trying to make ends meet. And sometimes when the government gets involved, it backfires in the long run, and the kids suffer, I think, long term. But you're doing it, you're doing it well. Your kids, I don't see them suffering at all, and you're doing great as a business owner. So I'm very proud of what you've accomplished up there.
No, thank you very much. And I mean, I owe a lot of it to the good staff that we do have. My good directors, my assistants, the staff that are there day to day, they have a really good bond with each other. They get along really well. So that really helps everybody come together, right? To make it a happy place. We may not be the highest paid people in the world, but we're happy to be there.
Love that.
And that's important. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling in the childcare business?
I think the reason why most of us struggle is we don't have time to give attention to that one area that's causing us the stress. So if it is your scheduling, if it is your interactions between the staff, the interactions between the staff and the children, that's causing you the pain points. But we've got all these other things that we're trying to take care of, and they're taking up our time, not allowing us to focus on what we need to focus on. So what I have learned is the best way to do that is to free yourself up, give yourself some time to focus on that by doing, get yourself a good CRM like in IntelliKids, help you manage the enrollment, the communication with the parents back and forth. Get somebody who does your books every month, get someone who does your payroll. Like all of these things, they do cost a little bit of money, but for me, it's a couple $100 for each one of these things. And it frees my time up so much because I'm not a bookkeeper. I just need to submit the hours for payroll, but let them figure out the taxes and unemployment insurance, all that. Let somebody take care of that. And then you can focus on where your pain point is at the daycare. Where do you need to focus your attention? And that brings the stress off of you, right? Because you need to be focusing on that one thing, but you can just never really dive deep into it because you don't have the time. So make yourself the time.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. So let's talk about goals. You and I, we've coached together for a while now, and I know we're big on goal setting. So what's one goal that, if you don't mind sharing, that you have to accomplish in 2023?
Brian, you already know my goal. We talked about this one. This is my goal for the year, to really focus on profits and loss statements. Every month, my bookkeeper provides them to me, and I used to be, oh, that's nice, and I'd file it in my email folder. And honestly, as long as I was making a profit, I never looked at it. But now I look at it and I can see certain trends. Where are we spending too much? How long has this trend been going on? Because if you let it go too long, the trend is already, the money is gone, and how do you recoup it? Well, often you can't, right? So really notice where you're paying extra, spending more money. And if you look at it each month, you'll be able to identify it, and you can you can just kind of get to it right away. So if your wages are really high one month, well, why is that? Well, let's look at the scheduling. Let's look at the ratios of the children. Have children aged out? Do we need one less staff? Are they, did they spend $52 on feathers because it was International Bird Day? Strange things like this. We're like, okay, well, we're going to just discuss it. And I know it's little things, but if you don't control your craft spending, you don't control your wages, et cetera, things get out of hand real quick. So that's my goal, is to really pay attention to the profit and loss and manage the spending better.
And when you can only raise 5% a year, you're kind of forced to watch that bottom line. 3%, sorry, 3% a year. You're watching that bottom line a whole lot more. So out of necessity, I'm glad you're doing it. And wanted you to share that, because I think other people might be in the same boat, especially with a lot of grant money ending in the US. People that have not even looked at their profit and loss statements in years, it's going to be in for a rude awakening when their profits are considerably less next year. And you got to start watching that. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. So you've been doing one-on-one coaching with Brian for quite a while now. And what do you like most about the personalized coaching that you receive?
I think the most for me is knowing that I'm not alone. Brian and yourself, Carol, you both have so much experience in childcare. So my day-to-day problems or my day-to-day concerns, I can bring it to you, and then you can talk me through it. Give me some solutions. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And it's hands-on stuff that I can go away with from our coaching, and I can immediately apply it or look into it or start working on it. Right? It's tangible. I can work with it right away. That's the most important for me. And then with the pod group that we have, I know that they are very supportive, and I know that it's kept to us. And people will share everything, their happiness, their sorrows, and we're all there for each other. We're not trying to compete. Like you might be competing in your own neighborhood, because in your own neighborhood, you do not share trade secrets. But here we can share trade secrets, and we can build on them and really help each other. So I appreciate the one-on-one. I think, Brian, the first time I had a one-on-one coaching call with you, I was so relieved to have somebody that I was crying. I was just so happy to have somebody who knew what I was going through.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And what I like about the one-on-one coaching is you could be honest when it's one-on-one.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're in a group of people tend to keep the negative close to the vest, and they don't like to share in their little circle because they're kind of embarrassed when things are struggling. And, some things you and I talked about on a call today that we had, that might be a little uncomfortable to talk about in front of other people. Hey, I made a mistake on this, or I made a mistake on that. Whereas one-on-one coaching, there's nowhere to hide. You're open and honest, and that's, you get open and honest advice back. And that's why I always liked it. I always preferred one-on-one coaching. I never liked group coaching, and I love working with you. You're my favorite Canadian client.
Oh, thank you.
You're the only Canadian client, so you're definitely my favorite. And
I hope so.
Someday you'll be my favorite. What do you call somebody from Alberta? An Albertan?
An Albertan, yep.
Yeah, so when I get another Canadian, you'll be my favorite Albertan.
Good.
So what's your, we ask a mindset question of all of our guests. So where's your favorite place to travel to? Are you a big traveler?
We love to travel. Our most recent trip we went to was in just this past June. We spent 14 days in Portugal. So we had this trip we had the trip planned before COVID. And the week before we were supposed to go, everything shut down. So it's been long in the making. My two kids were with us, my husband and I, and we went to Lisbon, we went to the Algarve, we went to Sagres, we went just to different places in Portugal. Food was amazing, nightlife amazing, just the history, the cobblestones and the stories. And I just love all that old European history and charm.
Now, did you go to the ocean?
We did. Yeah. Yeah.
Big waves there. I've seen some YouTube videos of some waves there. Were there big waves, or just wasn't the time of year?
No, not where we were. The beach was enormous. It was beautiful, just absolutely enormous. And the water was nice and clear and calm. So maybe we're at the calm time of year.
And it was warm enough to swim in?
Oh, absolutely. It was hot. It was really hot.
Of course, Canadians are not the best judge of water temperature because we have Canadians come down to Maine, and Maine people won't swim in our ocean, but the Canadians do because it's like 50 degrees. You're not one of them. Okay. So you would know if it was warm or not.
Yes. I'm not one of those brave souls that go swimming in the Atlantic off Nova Scotia. No, thank you.
No, the Old Orchard Beach in Maine. And Maine people, we won't swim in it. It's 55 degrees in the summer, the hottest day. But the Canadians, they love it. They'll come down because it's warm to them, because their water's in the 30s, ours is in the 50s. They think it's warm. I still think they're crazy. And you can always tell the Canadians because they're all the really, really white ones without the tan.
Yes. And we get nice and sunburnt.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we've really enjoyed you. I hope you don't think we're picking on our fellow Canadian. We actually love Canada, and we love you and appreciate you, and thank you so much for sharing your story with our listeners. If they were to want to go to your website and learn a little bit about your school, what's your website?
growwithuschildcare.ca.
Love that.
Yeah.
And so thank you again. Stay safe from wildfires, and enjoy the rest of your summer. I'm sure it'll be snowing before. When does it start snowing? September?
Usually October. The children go trick-or-treating, and that night the snow comes.
That's actually about the same for us. So
Yeah.
not too much difference. And your ground will be white probably until May, right? Same with us?
Yeah, same as you.
Yeah.
That's why we go on holidays.
That's why we go on holiday too. Yep.
Yeah.
Half the winter we're gone, and there you go.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you
right.
very much
Thank
for
you,
having
Gillian.
me.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
She is really great. I love talking to her.
Yeah, she's such a great attitude, and she's done really well. And I love working with her. And great podcast interview.
Yeah.
So she's got some good points there, and so I think people have learned quite a bit from her. And I think she was a blessing to many people, which is great. So let's talk about you. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe you're a center owner and you have some of the struggles that Gillian was talking about today, with profitability or with not being able to raise rates, or maybe you haven't raised your rates in years. Maybe you know that the grant money is ending and you were looking for help, what to do. Maybe you're having problems with staffing. Let's get on a call. I'll give you some advice. It's free, no obligation. You must be a center owner, and you just go to childcaregenius.com. Under the coaching tab, select I'd like a free coaching call. And I'm going to give you 2 or 3 tips on how to improve whatever area you're struggling. I've done this hundreds of times and helped people turn their business around. Even a one phone call can help turn your business around. And I love doing it. It's something I love doing. Give away free books, do free coaching calls. We're here to help you. So this concludes episode 52 of the Child Care Genius podcast. Thank you so much. And I say it every week, but I just want to thank you so much. If you're still listening, thank you for listening, following us, liking us, subscribing, and sharing.
Just a reminder to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a future episode of the Child Care Genius podcast. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Childcare Genius podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please do us a favour and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a future episode. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of services we offer to help grow your childcare business. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the Childcare Genius community.